Okay, welcome. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. We've just gone live in the Sisel World Team group. So if you're watching the recording, thanks for taking the time to watch the recording. And if you're joining us live, welcome again. So today I am really excited to be talking about age well for pets, a very passionate topic of mine. Absolutely love our pets, my pets, your pets. I love any animals. I'm a big animal lover. So I'm really excited to share this information to you today. And I've got some slides here. So I'm just going to bring those up. Let me share my slides. Okay, I'll just make sure I'm doing the screen share. Great. So today I'm going to be talking about aging well for pets. And, you know, always thinking about, can we get our pets to live a little bit longer? And of course, the way anyone can improve their longevity is to improve their overall health. So I guess the same would apply to pets. And that's the topic I wanted to talk to you about today. So first of all, I just want to put out there a medical disclaimer. I am not a vet, and the following information is my opinion and not veterinary advice. So I do have a science degree in health. I've done a lot of personal study myself, but I am not a vet. So none of the information is designed to prevent, treat, cure any disease or illness, and do consult your healthcare provider before taking any supplements. And with your pets, you know, again, this is just something that I've experienced, and so you'll have to use your own common sense and caution. So we're going to be talking about the age pill today. And before we get started, I also wanted to cover a little bit about some of the ingredients in the age pill, and then we'll get into specifically the diet for animals. And I'll touch a little bit on cats. It'll mostly be on dogs that I want to share my experience with you. And hopefully that this information will be useful to you, that if you've got a dog or a cat, that this information may help to improve some of the choices or options that you're, or I guess it is really choices that you're making in regards to your pet's well-being. And, you know, hopefully that can result in a healthier pet and a longer lived pet. So today I wanted to talk to you specifically about how many of us have used the Sisel age pill. Hopefully you can see it here. So the Sisel age pill, one of our really great flagship products, and use this product with our dog. I know Dr. Kurt does. I certainly do, and I've got other friends that do, and I know people who have used it with their cat as well. So I want to talk about how I've used it, and yeah, so let's jump into it. So I want to just touch on a little bit about some of the ingredients that you will find in the age pill. You know, I sat down the other day and I went and looked up each ingredient. I just typed in the ingredient and benefits, and what Google is now doing when they give you information with search results, particularly regarding health stuff, they're putting all the, I guess, medical sources at the top of the results. So you're seeing your things like your PubMed, you're seeing Healthline, all those sources, so that they're, you know, credible sources. They're probably, you know, they have come from studies and stuff like that. So I also want to put out there that I am not making any claims regarding the product. I'm specifically, these two slides is just about the ingredients, and the information is sourced online from some of those medical resources like Healthline and things like that. But just to give you a little bit more of a background about the product and a better understanding, I thought it was really good to cover some of these. So one of the main ingredients in this product, the age pill, is niacin. So niacin is actually B3, and it is really an essential nutrient to both humans and dogs and cats. They do need niacin too, obviously in varying doses because humans are a lot bigger, but it is a really important nutrient. And it helps with, you know, many functions in the body. And I'm not going to read through them all because I've got a lot of information to get to, but you can go and look up the ingredients yourself. The other two ingredients in there that are key is the niacinamide and the D-ribose. So niacinamide is a version of, I guess, niacin, but it's a non-flushing version. So when you have quite a bit of niacin, you can experience what's called a niacin flush, and that's where you go quite red. Capillaries expand, the blood gets flowing. And if you watched last week's presentation, I had a niacin flush on camera. I'd taken a age pill before I got on, 45 minutes, and I hadn't really drunk much, and I certainly hadn't eaten. And I only had 2 actually, but because I hadn't eaten in so long since the night before, and I'm quite sensitive to niacin, I did get a flush. So it's nothing to worry about. It only lasts a few minutes. So I guess that could potentially happen for a dog. You wouldn't know. So again, you just want to be mindful. Again, I'm going to speak from my experience in terms of what I would do, because I don't want to be advising people, but I'm mindful about how much I give the dog as well. And so the way you can avoid that is kind of spread it out. Niacinamide is the other ingredient. It's like niacin, but it's the non-flushing version. So it doesn't cause redness or blotchiness or anything like that. You don't get that niacin flush. And that is also the other component in there. When they combine the niacinamide, the niacin, and the D-ribose, it forms nicotinamide riboside, which is a precursor for the coenzyme NAD, which is something that the body produces and all living cells require. So this is, you've heard of NAD boosters and things like this. You might have heard of that before. And so this is how some of those ingredients work. Now, we've got lots of great ingredients, but just to show you that if you look at the first line of many of the ingredients, most of them are either an amino acid, which is a building block of protein, or they're a type of protein, or they're a carbohydrate. So you can see here, you've got a non-essential amino acid there. We've got a monosaccharide in the D-ribose. It's got alpha lipoic acid, and so this is actually used, is an antioxidant. We've got in there also L-carmosine, I'm not pronouncing it correctly, carmosine, I guess that's how you pronounce it. And so that actually is a building block of protein. And so you can see that a lot of them are really natural ingredients, and it is vegan friendly formula. So that's also to know. I will note there is one ingredient in there, rosemary leaf extract. I did have someone in the team whose pet was intolerant or allergic to rosemary. So that's just to be mindful of that, because anyone can always be allergic to something. So that's important to note. So I'm going to come back to the age pill and how I've used it for my dog and how it's made a difference. And I'm also going to share a really great testimonial with you today that I think is very, very inspiring. And it's a testimonial that I absolutely love. But first, I also want to touch on the question is, what are you feeding your pets? You know, often we see recalls on dog food. I think there was one recently, I remember, that quite a number of dogs, I don't know, thousands of dogs died. They were given some pet food and the pet food was recalled. So that obviously is really concerning. And what do I do? So what I do is make sure that I actually feed my dog premium quality food, being human grade. I don't feed my dog anything that's manufactured for pets. I really just don't trust the manufacturer necessarily. I mean, there's probably some really good ones out there, but I know that if it's good enough for humans to eat, that it definitely is good enough for my dog to eat. And so that's sort of the extent I go to. Everybody's different, so you may not feel the need to do that. And you might have found a really good dog food, but it's just to be mindful of like what's actually in the food and what are we feeding our animals. And that goes for both cats and dogs. Another thing to be mindful of is, what are they actually exposed to? You want to be really careful about that. Often people use Roundup, glyphosate, which is sort of a weed killer, and people spray it in and around, well, not in their home, but around their home, around the grassy areas, for the weeds, and in their garden. The problem with these types of things is that it's carcinogenic, point blank. It is a cancer-causing agent. Actually, it was banned here locally by the local council. I presented at the local council, and they were debating whether they should continue using it. And they made a ruling and decided that it was not safe, and they were no longer going to be using it in any of the local areas, the government local areas, and it wasn't to be used by any contractors or staff of local government. So they considered it to be of great concern. So that's been banned here locally. People still are using it in their gardens. So just to be mindful, because what happens is if it's been sprayed and your dog runs through it, it's getting the glyphosate on its paws, on its feet, then it's running through the house. It's bringing that chemical into your house. You cannot see it, so it's hidden. And they're potentially licking their paws. They're going to jump up on the couch. They might jump up on your bed, and you could be getting this toxic carcinogenic chemical all over your house. Into your pet's body. It's going to be going into you too. So that's a really big one. I really felt I had to mention that today, just to be mindful. So I'm really cautious of not using anything toxic in the garden, especially even poisons. No poisons. Snail bait's another big one. Being really, really mindful of this stuff. And if you are using that you're really cautious of it. It's locked away where your dog or cat can't get access to these sorts of things because they're highly toxic. Another one that I've heard people have issues with is floor cleaners. There's one particular, and I did a post in the Sisel for Pets group. I did a post on this particular floor cleaner, and on the packet it said that it was friendly, dog friendly, safe for dogs. Yet when you turn over the back and you read the first ingredient and you go look it up, it was actually carcinogenic. And they're just putting that on there as a sales pitch. They have no legal obligation to I guess, I don't know. They think it's fine. They said, I did call them about it, and they said that, oh no, it's safe as long as it's not used in a certain concentration. But from what I read, it wasn't safe in any concentration. So again, just being mindful with that, having a think about, is it really safe to be using? Better to be safe than sorry. So floor cleaners, looking for something really natural that is ingestible. Could it be ingested by you and your pet? And it's just about removing those toxins from the home. The other thing is, like with worming tablets, flea treatments, they can have really big problems. They are very toxic. I know people do need to treat their animals, but personally, I would go for more natural options. But if you are going to be doing that, be very careful about the dosage. Sometimes they'll do a range and they'll say this dosage for a little animal this size, and then the next weight bracket up jumps up, and there can be kind of it doesn't really make sense to be giving a smaller animal such a big dose, and that's where it can cause really adverse effects. I personally be careful of particularly the fleeing stuff. So, I go for more natural options. I know Dr. Kurt does too. So if you're interested in know what Dr. Kurt does for his treatment of his pets, shoot him off a message and he'll let you know there. So Kurt and I were talking about this topic before I started the call. Dr. Kurt is away this weekend, and I said I was quite happy to jump on and do the call without him, but he did say that he ran into someone in the street and their dog had Cushington's disease, and he went, ooh. He said, what are you feeding them? So that was interesting, and we didn't get to talk too much about it. So I might raise it with him on the next call to ask him to elaborate further. But really what his point was, I think, was it's really important that we pay attention to the diet of our animals, our cats and dogs, if we really want them to have good health. I've put Marsha's name on here because Marsha has a fantastic testimonial with her little dog. And she was in a situation where really the dog was at death's door. It had eaten something, because little dogs too are really more prone to getting sick. The reason is because they're so little, they only have to ingest a tiny amount of a toxin, a poison, some sort of bacteria before before it has an impact on their body because they're so little. So therefore they're more susceptible to things. So you have to be even more careful when you've got little dogs and cats, obviously a lot smaller than a dog, because it doesn't take much of a poison, a toxin, to actually really affect them. So I think she had worked out that it had eaten some droppings, and they were contaminated with, I don't know, it's a bacteria of some sort. Anyway, the dog became so sick it could hardly breathe, and they didn't think it was going to make it. She was really upset, and she used a number of the Sisel products to really bring and support that dog's health. And I can't make claims, but you can talk to her about her story, but it really did help and support the dog to turn the corner. And really, frankly, I think it's a miracle the dog made it through. And I think she can thank that to, giving proper nutritional support to help that dog. So I won't go too much into that story, but let's talk about what I've done and my experience with dogs. As I said, I'm not a vet, but I want to share my life experience and how many dogs I've had in my life. So I've had 4, and I'm going to go through them all and just explain to you a bit. And hopefully it'll just get you thinking about your animal and what you're doing. I also just want to make a note, vets versus nutritionists. I put that point up there. I remember looking up a veterinary degree because I was going in and was talking to the vet about giving my dog certain nutritional things to support it when it was in need, particularly Milo when she was in the last week of her life. And the vet, I looked up the veterinary degree, and the vet has only studied 1 unit of, I don't even think it was 1 unit, I think it was half a unit of nutrition. So vets are trained in pharmaceuticals and surgery. That is the main training for a veterinary vet. And so they really haven't covered the topic of nutrition in their study. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm not going to comment any further, but just have a think about that comment, okay? So anyway, getting back to my story, I've had 4 dogs. So the first dog, her name was Princess. She was a border collie, kind of quite small, really small. Now back then, I got her, well, we would have been pretty young. How old was I? Well, she lasted at 10, so I was 12. So I think it was about, I don't know, it must have been 4 or something, but because she lasted 10 years. I was just trying to do the maths, but anyway, not so important. But the point of that is I didn't know anything about nutrition then, right? Because I was growing up, I was just a tiny little kid, and I hadn't learned anything about good nutrition, about toxins and additives in foods, vitamins or minerals, knew nothing of that. And my parents didn't. The one thing my dad did know about was eating lots of vegetables. He was always promoting eating big bowls of vegetables, which is a really good thing. But with that dog, we used to feed it a particular brand, a very generic, popular brand. And I guess I won't name the brand, but it was a tinned food. And that is all the dog got. You just get the tin of food, open the tin, chuck it in the bowl, and the dog would have that every day for its life. Well, by the age of 10, which is really not that old, that dog had developed a tumor in its spine, and its leg was kind of dragging behind it. Now, I guess it is questionable, was it a tumor or was it a spinal injury? But the vet seemed to think a tumor, and based on what we feed it, I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, that dog got put down, which was really, really sad. And so it didn't make it that long. 10 years is not really that long at all. Second dog was a cross between a Labrador and another type of dog, mostly Labrador. That dog, by the second dog, we'd learned that it probably wasn't such a good idea to be giving the tinned food. And we went to kind of a raw food, like raw meats. Just trying to think exactly what we were feeding, but I think we were giving it quite a bit of mince, maybe kangaroo, other meats. But then what happened with that dog, it ended up going to my brother's house, and he was about 18 at that time, living with friends in his house. And you can imagine what 18-year-olds get up to, and they were eating lots of junk food and chips and lollies and even chocolate, and they were just letting the dog eat that. So the dog's last few years wouldn't have basically consumed a lot of junk food, and so I think that didn't help it. And that dog she ended up passing at 11.5 years. Now we're moving on to my third dog. So then I realized, okay, tin food didn't work. That's pretty bad. The meat was good, but, you know, be careful what extra I'm giving it. So then on to the third dog we're into now, Milo, who many of you have seen pictures of. She ended up making it to actually 16 years of age, which is about 3 years past the expected outer limit for that breed. So each breed has its range of years that it would live for, between a certain amount and that. Smaller dogs tend to live longer. Larger dogs live shorter. So the really big dogs may only live 7 or 8 years, whereas, you know, the smaller dogs can live longer, and some breeds are longer lived than others. So for her, that was past her, how long you'd expect her to age. And she basically was given, I didn't start giving her supplements till the last couple of years of her life. So she didn't have anything then, and the age pill had only just came out. So I started giving her the age pill. She was having 1 age pill in the morning, 1 at night. She had developed an issue with her spine in terms of her leg was kind of drooping a bit, sort of dragging behind her a little bit. But I think it was one day I pressed too hard on her when I was brushing her. But anyway, as soon as she had the age pill, like, that just disappeared. She came good again. Her coat improved, and she had heaps of energy, and it just really served her well. She had a really, really good quality of life. Even in her latter years, she was able to still run and go for walks, and just a really happy dog. And so I started giving her that, and she had some really good results. And I'm going to show you those pictures. She actually ended up passing, and I never mentioned it because it was too upsetting, and I didn't want to put it on Facebook or anything. But it was one night, the other dog that I had, Buddy, he ran into her at night. He was quite bossy, and he used to push her around, and sometimes he'd run into her purposely. And he ran into her, and she let out this great squeal. I don't know where he hit her, but it was really loud. It sounded like on her head or something. And then within the next 3 days, she went downhill really quick. Was it related? Maybe, maybe not. I think it might have had a play in it, but then she deteriorated pretty quickly, and within about 4 days, she didn't want to eat anymore, and the vets thought it was her kidney. Now, I could have taken her for more scans and all of that, but given her age and the costs, unfortunately had to put her down, and that was very traumatic. That was like taking a bullet. Yeah, anyway, it was really upsetting. But she had a really good life and had a really good quality of life. Now, with my fourth dog, Buddy, and I'm talking for a while, but hopefully this gets you thinking about your dog. So he's getting currently 1 age pill a day. I'm putting that in his food. It is based on weight. Just remember that 6 tablets of the age pill is designed for a 65 to 90 kilo person. Okay, so you need to dose down with this product. I did remember speaking to Tom Mauer Jr., and he was saying about half a tablet for a smaller dog, but, you know, start with a sprinkle and see how you go. Again, I can't really give advice. Let me rephrase that. If I had a smaller dog, I'd start with a sprinkle, then see how I went. So that's just to bear in mind. So just be mindful of how much you know, your animal weighs. So the other thing that I give my dog is he gets the Triangle of Life. He gets 5 mils of the Spectromax, he gets 5 mils of the Eternity, and he gets 5 mils of Fucoidan. I give him 1 capsule of Balance D. I crack that open. He gets a Super Omega in his meal as well, and I also give him some extra a little bit of extra fish oil. He gets human grade mince, lean mince, and I buy it in bulk. And then I weigh it out in batches, and then I'll bag it up with some frozen vegetables. I get the organic ones as well. So no expense is spared. But, you know, if you can't afford that, that's fine. But you can just get frozen vegetables, and they work really well. And so I put that in with his meal. He'll also occasionally get some apple. And then for his teeth, to keep his teeth healthy, he'll have a bone marrow once a week, which is really good for his teeth. So he's getting a really good diet, because whilst he's getting the human grade meat, he's also getting a supplementation put in there, because a lot of the pet foods you buy on the market will have supplements added to them to fortify them, because they just don't have nutrition in there to support your dog. So they literally have to fortify it with nutrients so that the dog gets them. So sort of I've put my own mix together and use those products. and they go really well. Kurt's got some phenomenal testimonials with a dog who was really sick, and he put the dog on the Triangle of Life, and it was just incredible how well it turned around. So that was really important story to share as well. So that's kind of what I'm doing for him. He's doing really great. He hasn't had any health issues at all. I also just wanted to say, and I had a slide up, but there is an article from the dogs from the magazine, Dogs Magazine. I had it, it's in the background, I'll show it just before I finish, but it was talking on the topic of garlic. So garlic is something that is on the poisons list for dogs, but actually garlic is, according to this article and many, I guess, medical sources, that it is okay, but it's based on weight. And this is where you have to be really, really careful with everything you give either your cat or your dog is based on weight. So if you go give something too much for an animal that size, you know, it can be toxic. So there's some good articles on the use of garlic, and I can see we're coming up to half an hour. I can talk about this topic for ages because I love it so much, but I did give my dog Milo, she ended up having half a clove of garlic when she was little, and then she ran around and went to the toilet and pooped out all these dead worms. So that was quite an experience. That's not why, I don't even know why I gave her the, I guess I gave her the garlic because I was worried about her health, but I wasn't aware of the garlic being toxic back then, but it, as I said, it's based on weight. So obviously it wasn't toxic. It ended up being very beneficial to her. So do some research on garlic for yourself, but there's lots of great articles out there. So let me kind of move on. I want to show you some of the pictures of the results. And this is a great thing. Dogs don't lie. A good friend always said that to me. You're not going to see the placebo on the dog because the dog didn't even know it got it. Okay. So if your dog's having good results, then obviously, you know, can you really say it's a placebo? This was before and after. This was her at about, I think she was 14 there. And you can see that her grey hair had started reducing. She had this wart, might have been, yeah, I think it was a wart or a mole or a skin tag, something like that. But you can see it reduced greatly on her face. And then you can see when I first started on her, she had a lot of grey hair around the snout. And you can see it started to diminish. And after 3 months, it really had diminished significantly. Her coat was looking fabulous. It was looking fabulous all the way to her last days, and lots of energy, and just really pleased with that. And it just really, honestly, it just helped her tremendously. Now, I was going to play this testimonial today, but we're not going to have time. But Renata shared this testimonial. Her dog, Rhinestone, was having troubles walking, was dragging his left hind leg. Remember I mentioned that before? Actually, I've mentioned that with 2 of the dogs. It happened with the first dog. And then with Milo, it started, but I think that was more of a disc issue because I pressed too hard on her. But anyway, so this dog had this issues with walking, dragging his left hind leg. She went to the vet, and the vet said it was nerve damage and that she should amputate the dog's leg. She thought this was totally unacceptable. She went home. She decided to give him a go and pop him on, and she only gave him 1 H pill a day. And she said within the first week, he started to get his foot straight out underneath him because he hadn't been able to go up and down the stairs. And then he started getting better at going up and down the stairs. And then she actually said she used to use a sling to bring him up the stairs, to getting up to the top of the stairs. Anyway, he continued to improve. And then after what she said there, I'm just trying to read the notes there, but it was after, I think, a couple of months that he was able to run up and down the stairs. And so she didn't have to amputate his leg. So, I mean, really the point of this is dogs and cats need nutrition. I haven't touched that much on cats. I'm going to share a testimonial on that quickly before we finish up. But pets need nutrition. Pets need nutrients like humans do. They may need a different kind of more of some than others because, you know, the dogs actually may have slightly different nutrition requirement with specific nutrients, that is, but generally they do need all this good nutrition the same as us. And so that's really important to remember. So, you know, pet manufacturers that produce dog foods and cat foods aren't policed. They don't have to be checked. They're not, you know, the FDA doesn't come in and check them to see if their stuff's contaminated. We kind of rely on their goodwill that they're doing the right thing and checking. And sorry, for me, that's just not good enough. I'm not going to trust that. So whatever I'm doing, I really want to trust it 100%. So that's important to note. This one was shared from someone with a cat. The cat had an eye infection, and so she mixed up some age pill and gave it to the pet. Again, be really mindful of dosage, start low, and be mindful of that weight thing that I had mentioned. And anyway, she found that after about 10 days that the cat was doing really well, and the cat had started to heal, and she noticed a number of other benefits in the cat as well. So this is a really great testimonial. That is actually not a picture of the cat. I didn't have a picture of her cat, but I added that picture in just to add to the story. But, you know, it's a really good story to share. So you can, if you're watching the recording, you can always go back and pause it and read it. So that's really good. Yeah, so that was really it for the testimonials today. So in terms of cats, again, just to be mindful, they need nutrition as well. And so if you're looking for a resource, there's, I think Macola for Pets talks, there's a vet website where they post a lot of articles on natural, on nutrients for pets and what to be, you know, what can help. But yeah, so I think that's all I've got to share for today. I don't want to go too far over, so hopefully that was useful. I'll just check the questions. I see I've got a couple of questions here. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, next card, Vicky drop a thing. Earlier in the presentation, I was talking about being really careful of like wormers and fleeing agents. They can be highly toxic. I personally wouldn't take the risk. I'd be too scared of the reaction. So I would be looking for some other natural option. That's just me. But Vicky said that that particular product, NexGard, was it, Bravecto, led to him becoming epileptic and had actually killed a dog. So really sad to hear about stories like that. There's just not the standards out there to, you know, because they just consider them animals, that's why. But I know for many of you watching the call, you consider your pet a lot more than just an animal. It's a very valued member of the family, and therefore we want to look after it as best we can. So hopefully that gave you some good information today, got you thinking about stuff, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next call.